awaiting one more member, one more of our troop, one more of our little impromptu family, as it were. Our family of... I have a message.
One might even call it a coterie.
What? No.
Okay, so we have a few minutes before Hess arrives. While we play for time, Lolly, Miriam,
I didn't do it. Oh.
would you all like to bring Lucia up to speed to what's happening in view of our play camera, in view of what's been taking up time and efforts?
So, Miriam stabbed a policeman in the leg with a pen. Then she ripped his finger off when she pulled his gun away from him. And then she saved his life.
I'm sure the previous two acts were necessary to saving his life, correct? I'm sure the pen...
No.
pen, right?
Well, she had good intentions with the pen, which was kind of to just put him in some pain to get him out in a way and just, down so we could deal with the Nosferatu. But that didn't work.
Oh, so there's a Nosferatu too.
Well, let's start at the beginning of the problem.
Oh, yeah, I suppose that would be good.
We were fairly sure that he was a ghoul working for someone, and that this was all being manipulated by someone who he was working for. So we got him to come back by himself under the premise of getting some of his blood so that Hestia could determine if he was a ghoul or not. So he came back, and Lolly read his aura and determined he was a ghoul. And then Hestia blinked across the room and cut him, or attempted to cut him, but the Nosferatu put himself in the way. And then all hell broke loose.
Oh, so the Nosferatu was there.
Yes.
And then he was stabbed in the leg and stabbed by Amalia and lost a finger. And the Nosferatu ran off and hurt a bunch of people. And it just became a giant clusterfuck of why did we even do that?
Yes. And don't forget, yes, he was in fact stabbed by Amalia, but not the Amalia from Milwaukee. He was stabbed by the Amalia who actually operates there as the cook and the chef, the head of the food department, because in defending himself before Miriam got the gun out of his hand, well, literally tore it out of his fingertips, his very warm, not dead grip, he let off a couple of shots trying to defend himself from the blur of carnage that Hestia was viewed as. Unfortunately for him, letting off shots, squeezing a trigger and releasing expelling projectiles from a firearm around people who are roughly suffering from PTSD due to all of the trauma and drama that they've experienced, caused them to close ranks and come to what they believe was the rescue of Hestia. They thought that she was being attacked. They thought that she was being savaged. And after everything that they've lost, they refused to give it. And so they showed up and, well, you had humans against humans in the midst of kindred being kindred and the invisible monster that is the Nosferatu escaping in the pell-mell. Now, the shock of nearly killing someone is not something that's easily swallowed. And that trauma and drama on them was just another list in a long pile of straws that have piled up. And in an effort to help them deal with that trauma and drama, Lolly managed to brainwash, to rinse Maya into believing that she was the person that wielded the knife that nearly killed or potentially killed the police officer who was discharging their firearm inside at the shelter. And then Lolly fucked off.
Was Amalia the new hire?
No, Amalia is the cook that has been there since episode 1, when Simone all but threatened her, and you realize that just because you may be big, tall, and strong, not everyone is going to fold. Much like Sebastian, Cecilia, and Donnell, Amalia has been there since the very, very beginning. Elmira, the new hire, has only been part of the staff for now going on. This is the 4th episode where she has been a member of the shelter, the Viral shelter. She has not experienced nearly as much trauma nor drama. And Javier, who still hasn't quite made it there, this would technically be his 4th episode being part of the Viral shelter as well, but he hasn't quite made it there, and he has the opportunity of escaping all of the previous harm and drama and trauma that has been meted out. And welcome. Is there any bit of detail you'd like to offer to our fair Lucio to bring him up to speed?
I mean, like, I had a very long day, so I'm like super tired right now. I heard the tail end of what you shared. I did tell him in DMs about telling Amalia that she wanted to get cats and why. That we did save him. That the Nosferatu got away and is probably going to rat us out, or if they haven't already, which is going to cause a problem. Donnell is obviously suffering fairly deeply PTSD and shock that a couple of the people in the shelter that were just human obviously got hurt, so that was where some of their attention was split. They had to turn the cafeteria into kind of a triage to keep them away from the cops, and also the fact that there wasn't enough room in that little room for all the people that got hurt when the Nosferatu tried to get away. They injured him pretty badly, so if they had kept him from leaving, they probably would have killed him, but he got away, obviously. They still have a way to call Mr. Gabriel and let him know what they decide to do, but now they've probably complicated that, so that is a in-character choice that needs to be made as to whether we're going to drag him back into it and let him handle it from here, or whether we're going to try to fix this ourselves. We definitely have some ideas as to how to fix it ourselves, but again, that's an in-character situation. But for now, we were about to bed down for the day, knowing that the staff that was currently there was probably going to handle things while we were sleeping. So that's pretty much as far as I can remember things.
Okay. My last 2 clarifying questions. So we captured the cop, or did the cop get away?
We captured him. He is in fact going to be sleeping in our rooms because we don't want to risk him getting at the people. And Miriam's pretty sure she can configure the IV drip to keep him sedated all day.
Okay. And the second question is, what was Lucio doing this whole time?
Oh no! What was he doing?
Having a smoke.
That is a very interesting question, because the idea, like I said, unfortunately I squandered what little time we had to get you to have enough time to post and prompt back and forth in post. But suffice it to say, the idea behind it was that Lucio would have been formalizing the exterior security. There's still several holes in the potential awareness of the shelter. Like, people can get right up to the building. There's entering through the parking garage, there's entering through the main door, and there's most pressingly, and one of the many areas that hasn't really been explored nor refortified, is Whisper's rubble. The building that caved in on itself and looks, for all intents and purposes, like nothing more than a dilapidated hull. There's no space for anyone who needs a roof or windows or doors, but the basement, which has its own door and is relatively obfuscated from the street. In all this time, in all the many, many months and years since Whispers has been there, he hasn't been the only person using that space. Initially, Vivi used that space. Initially, Vivi had worked and refortified that space and turned it into her own little bat cave. Initially. However, Vivi hasn't had the opportunity to get back and double check anything or refortify anything, and she's been having her own sort of issues that has kept her away. However, While getting into the shelter is relatively easy, getting in secretly without anyone noticing is an effort. And several individuals, through the use of their pets, their ghouls, their famulouses, and their hired help, have been retrofitting the path and passageways from that satellite secure pseudo haven into the shelter itself, breaking through walls, refortifying them, finding the access points through the relatively wide sewer access through the main juncture into the underground spaces of the shelter. Now, normally that would be entering in through someone's basement or storm cellar or what have you. But with the shelter having 2 subterranean levels, it is far more dangerous for those who reside in the haven. It's far more difficult to hide, but that's what's been being done. Slowly working at the walls and boundaries between the sewer and the subterranean access points for the shelter. And in the doing, it's easy to find telltale signs of rodent activity and increased presences of other non-rodents, bipedal entities, which was what Lucio was to be working on, to have discovered, and for him to decide whether he would share it with the rest of the coterie. We ran out of time, so we'll say that all things were successes, and he is well aware that someone has been working on an alternative route into the shelter without anyone being the wiser. Whether he shares that information or not, again, is 100% up to him.
Oh, well, yeah, he's absolutely going to share the information when he gets a chance.
Nah, that's secret information. He should keep it to himself. He should be the only one that knows about it. No, but in all seriousness, all relative seriousness, with the standpoint of where we are, with everyone knowing what the coterie was last up to, are there any questions, suggestions, hypotheses, or corners we need to round off? Excellent. Always a very good thing. The silence of understanding. We have a clear idea as to where every coterie member is and what is most pressingly on their minds and on their hearts. And as such, I'd like to say thanks, guys. We've been here in this comfortable knowledge of each other, the characters in the world they inhabit, and the joy that brings us in our off moments and our escape from our personal realities, entertaining this hobby of ours. And I'd like to say thank you. Always, forever, eternally, thank you, thank you, and thank you, because it does mean a lot. Play is not something that most adults, let alone adults who are relatively responsible, have the opportunity to indulge or engage in. But it keeps us young, it keeps us vibrant. And so for all of the extra years added to the end of my life and the joy in between, from the bottom of my heart to the top of my mind, I am very appreciative of all that you all brought and all the opportunities that you all create. And without further ado, this is officially Soup City Sins, Season 19, Episode 3. An epitome of the act. Gleaming, glinting, glowing. Day passes into night, especially at this time of the year in Chicago, as if by magic. It doesn't fall with a crash. There's no light show of the sun fading behind the horizon line. It is literally a blink and you will miss it moment that happens somewhere in the neighborhood between 4 and just before 5. The sky, even on the clearest of days, goes from bright with the hint of the idea that warmth is not that far off to cold and foreboding. The wind, somehow understanding that the sun is no longer in the sky, picking up with such ferocity that people wear layers, not because of the chill in the air, but to give the wind something to do besides ruffle and rustle beneath their clothing. The layers that are worn are not necessarily the thickest or most secure layers, but it is a understanding that if you don't want to die of pneumonia, if you don't want to catch something during this most dangerous time of the year, where we go from early to mid 40s to negative degrees, all in the span of the same few hours. That being prepared for every degree of weather in between is the only important factor for survival. And it only gets worse after dark. It only gets cooler. The wind gets more daring. You find people standing at the bus stop closer and closer as the light disappears. You find the night sidewalks and streets filled with the glow of cell phones as everyone's ordering Uber and Lyft and taxis of all variety to keep from walking the 15 feet to get to the bus stop. It is so cold and so assaulting from the wind that once you are inside, outside of life and death, you don't venture back out. At least those with common sense. Unfortunately, not many of the residents of the shelter have that opportunity or that option. Part and parcel of the unspoken rules of the shelter is that everybody works. And what that means is not that everyone has a job. Not everyone has a career or hobby that detracts and subtracts from their time. But everyone must at least try to work. You must try to be productive. You must try to be a member of the community in full standing. Your efforts, your attentions buys you safety and security, though even that is quite fleeting these days at the shelter. And so out into the cold they go and return, and it is a wonder that more of them don't take sick, more of them don't take ill. Yet they manage to survive. They tough it out. They have layers. They have clean clothing. They have the opportunity, the computer centers and office center to polish resumes, to have a place to email from, to have a place to have text sent to, and build some semblance of themselves back up. It doesn't happen every day, nor even every month, but occasionally there's a graduation of sorts. People are able to gather enough resources beneath them to no longer kneel, to no longer have to be homeless or indigent. It takes effort and time, but every opportunity to better themselves, to have some place to set down roots, is celebrated. And so the community, even above the transients that come and go, slowly shifts over time. Tonight is such a moment. Well, today is such a moment. One of the longer reigning members of the community has managed to save up enough to get a job, to get a wardrobe, to find a studio off Sheridan where they can walk to their job at the storage place just south there on Montrose. They are leaving the shelter. There's cake and ice cream. And there's the celebration, the somber celebration of someone bettering themselves for themselves and their community. And while all of that happy, forced though it might be, moment is happening in the shelter above their heads, the dead return to life. The dead resurrect for the evening. And miles away, Lolly does the same, life returning to their limbs, or the semblance thereof. But everyone be so kind as to roll your evening rounds. Not everything is as it seems. Nothing is always as easy as it should be. There are times when the beast demands its pound of flesh. There are moments when the beast refuses to simply whisper its transgressions into your ear and will you into a situation where you could be most dangerous to yourself and those that matter to you. This is such a moment for Lucio. As the semblance of life returns to his limbs, so does the roar of his beast. Starting simple and slow, recounting all the many wondrous flavors and textures of vitae that he has absorbed and consumed over the last few years. Holding in stark contrast the neutered and devoid of anything and everything fractionated blood that he had been consuming upon his death. attempt to hang on to some semblance of humanity, hanging on to some semblance of human. Figured he could get it easy, and he didn't have to kill anyone. He didn't have to feed on anyone. It could hang on to that idyllic sense that he was in fact still human. But like potato chips, once he popped, he couldn't stop. Not only could he not stop, but he has sampled a vitae stretching back centuries. He has sampled a vitae that tantalizes the mind even now, months and months later. The small seasonings that come with age, the various feelings and resonances that coursed throughout those small drops. Then he's tasted blood that has no equal, at least not in the actual world. It's the melding of all that dark, unctuous beauty of the world beyond and the vibrancy of this life, just as if there was some magical elixir that summoned up the taste of the Garden of Eden. And this beast is whispering, and it's roaring, since comparing and contrasting, and holding a stake in front of the nose of a starving man to ease him forward into, well, you tell us, Lucio.
This may be risky, even though he's at hunger 3. He's not going to go hunting yet, because there's some part of him that almost wants to stay hungry, to, number one, keep him on his toes, keep him alert and focused, but also because part of him really wants to save his hunger for when he meets whatever fucker has been trying to make their way into their haven.
So staying hungry, resurrecting for the evening, does he head into the shelter itself, or does he stay at his watch position in the hidden alcove formerly owned by Whispers, utilized by Vivi, and now somehow utilized by some other entity?
Ooh, he's gonna stay because he's expecting them to come by soon, presumably to see if there's any fallout from what's occurred here. Failing that, he may try to be more active in his hunt for them.
So hunkering down, drawing his jacket a little closer and tighter, not against the external cold that is all about him, no, but against the inner heat, the fire of his beast urging him forth into the night. He steels himself and prepares to wait, to tough it out, the muscles in his jaw clenching and tensing. Speaking of clenching and tensing, the idea that you've left a person inebriated by chemical means and remaining hopefully unconscious without an idea as to what their tolerance might be, without an idea as to how much they can actually absorb, going solely off of their weight, their height, and their musculature. You've guesstimated how long and how much they can tolerate. Amali, would you be so kind as to, Miriam, as you resurrect for the evening, how spot on were you? Would you be so kind as to roll your intelligence plus medicine? Standard DC. How close to right did you get it? Did you accidentally overdo it? Did you accidentally underdo it? Or were you far enough off base of imperfection that you have it perfectly spot on?
He is a miracle worker.
So resurrecting for the evening, you didn't expect nor count on the detective being cognizant, being active, being aware. And sure as your inclinations and understanding of medical science was, not only is he unaware, he is still completely and deeply sonorously asleep. Standing over the formerly bleeding, a little still leaking detective, far more unconscious than you expected at sunset. What is Miriam attempting, if anything? Is she going to waken him slacken the drugs coursing through his system? Is she going to augment it and make sure he stays under longer?
Her first course of business would be checking the wounds, double checking stitches, making sure, everything is copacetic, and as well, obviously he's not going to be pristine again, but recovering as best as he can. She'll leave him under just a little bit longer until she's sure that everyone's awake and they're able to get him back down to the triage.
Now, with the drug-induced sleep, did Miriam also keep him strapped to the gurney? Did she keep him strapped?
Oh, absolutely. She's no idiot.
The beast did not move her to excess. It didn't resurrect her with the immediate want to divest the world of its life juice. But there is a ever-present whisper in the beast. It's your constant companion, especially in the moments where you're presented with what should be such an easy meal. And in fact it is. He would never notice. He'd just have the most blissful continued dream if you were to partake of a small sip.
She's like, shh, maybe later.
Later is a fantasy ground that no one can live in. And as you negotiate with your inner voice, as you negotiate with the intrusive thought of your beast, several things occur to you. Despite whoever he was moonlighting in the thraldom of, he is still a Chicago police officer, or more specifically, an experienced Chicago police detective. How long could you all keep such an entity here? What other precautions had he taken for his visit here? He already brought invisible protection, an invisible body man to keep him safe from potential harm. What other plans had he in place? And compounding that thought is what other plans of a more nefarious sort of the kindred community that he is loosely a part of had he laid in place for his visit here? Who else knew he was here? And finally, the biggest injury to all the insults. His body man left, escaped, fled into the night last night.
That is a marvelous question, and one that I hope we will answer when we're all together again.
I'm thinking of when we're all together again. Hestia, the living have the opportunity of not being cognizant during their sleep. When they pass out and fall calm, whether it's for a nap or over the night or over the day if they work at night, they have the ability of enjoying the calm of their mind, subconsciously working through all of the problems of their day. The things that got their blood pressure, the things that got their heart rate going, the things that sat at the back and caused them to cry when no one was paying attention. Their subconscious worked at it piece by piece while they were asleep. And while it may not ever solve any of those problems, it helps them be able to deal with the next day a little better than they would have with all of those problems of the previous day wearing on them. The kindred don't have that mechanism. Sleep is not what the kindred do. The kindred die for the day. A switch is thrown and they cease to be. It's thrown the other direction and they're once more back where they began, in the same position as when they died for the day, in the same moment and same thought is when the sun finally breaks the horizon line. There truly is no rest for the wicked. resurrected back to a semblance of life. The beast quietly lolling in the back of your mind. Its normal, intrusive thoughts, nothing more than susurrus whispers filling the room, at least that room of your mind palace. There are several glaring factors weighing on your mind, as they were when you died for the day. You have a member of the Chicago Police Department on your premises. A member of the Chicago Police Department that was clearly in the pocket of and acting on the behest of a member of the kindred community. They almost died. But the fact of the matter remains, they only matter to your thoughts because of the inherent threat therein. A Chicago police officer kept in your domain, under your control, under the sway of the coterie, kidnapped. Though with damage done to him, no matter how much you all tried to save him, technically the charge would be aggravated kidnap. And as far as kindred are concerned, you can't borrow someone else's ghoul. You can't borrow someone else's thrall. You all stole. You all did grievous harm to someone else's property. And then there's the fact of where is Lucio? What if the same thing happened to him? Wherever he is out there in the night, if he is still out there in the night, there's a very good chance that he is very much in harm's way or worse. So resurrecting. Thoughts bombarding. Where does that leave Hestia?
In her favorite state of what the fuck? And how do I deal with what the fuck? Usually she'd make efforts to pull herself together, look presentable, what have you. This time she's just kind of basically wash her face and put on something clean, not even really caring what it looks like. Time is of the essence. She remembers what happened when they kept Wolchik's son for too long and does not wish to repeat that situation. So, heading out looking for Miriam so that they can at least come to a consensus on whether they could drop him off somewhere. After obviously altering his memory the best they can. And preparing for the coming storm. Yeah, she's heading to look for Miriam.
Some things are easier done than said. Instinctually, knowing Miriam's humanistic approach to everything, you know where she would be. Keeping watch, detailing sleep patterns, detailing any blood loss, any liquid loss, and all of those myriad of details that may be happening to the soon-to-be corpse of the police officer that you all have in your company. And as expected, Miriam is there, gazing at the body, thoughts percolating behind those half-drawn eyes as she looks down on him.
Don't get too attached. We have to let him go tonight. The last time we had somebody stay too long, it came back to bite us in the ass, and this is already taking a big old chomp. So we might want to expeditiously see his healed as he's going to get here ass out the door. Thing is, we need to either alter his memory somewhat, or I still got to get a hold of his phone so that I know who it is we're going to have to deal with and who sent him. But we need to get him back out the door, because I don't know what plans he made, who he told was coming here. They're probably looking for him because he didn't show up for work tonight. So it's only gonna take somebody to do like one circle sweep of the neighborhood and see his fucking off-duty car, and we're shit. So, yeah, we need to get him up and going and out of this place, and then we need to figure out where the fuck Lucio is.
I have done for him basically all that I can. The rest is kind of up to his body. Some antibiotics would be good. Should pick some up at the pharmacy. Anyway, yes. There's not a whole lot more I can do with him. He is still breathing, so that's good. But yeah, I've made sure that he stayed asleep for just a little longer. Didn't want to have him remember discussions around him. Consciously, subconsciously, who knows?
Alright, so obviously we need to get him prepared to get back out of here. Can you start weaning him off, waking him up? I'll go run and get the phone real quick, meet you back here, or actually I don't know, should we go to the garage and just put him in the car and then drive the car somewhere else? We gotta figure this out.
You should be asleep for another hour or so. Maybe 45 minutes. But yeah, we can do that. It's just a matter of where do you want to take him?
Where did his gun end up, by the way? Could we, maybe make it seem like he tried to off himself? Was having a bad day, been parked on a lookout or something like that, and...
I think I gave it to Darnell. And I handed it to someone as I walked out to try to save him.
Yeah, we're gonna need that back. But he's probably gotten rid of it by now, because if he's smart, which usually he is, he wouldn't want to hold on to a hot weapon that it belongs to a Chicago police officer.
But speaking of being smart and getting rid of something hot, doing everything one can to protect and insulate themselves from the fallout of decisions made rashly, Lolly's eyes spring open. She hears all manner of profanity and good goddamn sons of fucking and splattering of pans and something clearly hot and sizzling. She can easily smell the grease. She's not sure whether it's lard or vegetable oil, but whatever it is, it's clearly hot and something protein and blood rich had been in it. There's a certain scent that oil takes on of all the things that have been cooked in it, and this smells very much like burger, steak, something big, thick, and rich in nutrients. And while normally that would not be of any effect to her, normally the scent of things cooking are only a vague remembrance of the life that she had left behind so very long ago for her. But in this moment, as she has her eyes torn open by wakefulness, by resurrecting into the corpse that keeps her here, the scent stirs her beast. It's a little peckish. She takes on the seeming of life, not just in being ambulatory, but her vitae is coursing and moving through her system. Her heart is shallowly beating. Her lungs are inhaling and exhaling. And From a distance, anyone who saw her would see her as simply someone who may not be feeling the best, if they even noticed that about her. Her vibrant, bright hair and general non-monstrousness. It's a very deceiving act. It's very much the wolf dressed as grandma for most. And would it be sometimes to roll your wits plus aspects for me, please? Or resolve plus aspects if you're attempting to fight it. There's a giant chessboard that stretches from the Canadian border to the Ohio Valley, down to New Orleans, and as far west as Colorado. Huge thing. And even more so than the board of the approximate size that fills that space. Because it doesn't have just two sides to it. There's not just a white and a black, a light and a dark on both sides of this particularly large chessboard. There's a light and a dark, and then a gray and a darker gray spread across this board. And each of the positions of the kings, there's a wooden sable sort of king, there's a one made of copper, one made of brass, one made of iron, spread across this board. And the pawns in the first row of each of these particular sides are moving towards the center of the board, each trying to establish control of the center. And just as the game is getting hot and heavy and pieces are flying across the board, some bishops, the assassins of the chessboard, are flying south and others are flying west and some are flying east. Through the middle of the board is a huge red-ish warthog. Its tusks long and glinting as if they are made out of steel, tearing through the pieces. It gets to the darker gray portion of chessmen and chess pieces and tears the queen to pieces. It obliterates it, backs over it as if it is some huge semi. Backs up and you can hear that beep, beep, beep. And it charges again, disappearing off the board, followed by several hundred pawns, several knights and another bishop and a rook moving off the board behind it, leaving a clear line of attack towards the king in the east, while the king in the west is pulled by the shadows from the board. The king in the north is sat upon by zombie-like pawns, leaking all manner of things, vampiric teeth bared and closing on him. While from him, instead of blood, there flows this thick, rich, Guinness-like beer. And lastly, the king in the south, multiplying into two and destroying itself. And just when things begin to start making some sense, rats chew at the edge of the board, each one carrying a huge cross made of some vampire that you've seen in passing. And by a vampire, literally the cartoony version of what the kindred are, unable to have garlic on their pizza while still eating it by the handfuls. And these rats carrying this cross descend on the one safe spot on the board, the one spot that you're standing very close to, and is beginning to eat at the very fabric of the world around you. And you can hear your loyal manservant, your good buddy, your pal, your chum, in the kitchen cursing up a storm, and the scent of cordite, the scent of his flesh being burned, very much reaching across the scent of steak or hamburger or whatever thick, rich meat substance he was frying or had been frying, or you're not sure what. You don't cook. You haven't cooked in, well, ever, really.
feeling that Floyd is in trouble, she will try to shake her head free of the cobwebs and pull herself up off the ground that she's probably fallen to, and make her way through the rest of the labyrinth of boxes and newspapers and other stuff in the basement there, and sprint up the stairs to see if he's okay.
He surprisingly is, for all of the bitching and complaining and profane use of the word bitch, motherfucker, and every step in between that he's using. He did, in fact, burn himself, but it's no more than he'd done before. But in this moment, it's clear that his own personal hunger, or whatever else is dancing beneath his eyes, is what's causing him to be as upset about the spilled meal that he was preparing.
Does Lolly remember how long it's been since she's fed him?
Coming up on 3 weeks.
Just to be on the safe side, she'll grab probably some sort of gas station tumbler from the cupboard.
Is she going to risk a full drop, or just a few drops that it normally requires?
Just what it requires.
And it is amazing the strength inherent in kindred vitae. It is not some small, easy thing. A few drops is enough to bestow a portion of your strength and your longevity onto your ghoul, onto your thrall. More than that, and it's a refortifying. It allows them to dig deeper into the world of the supernatural, which has its own cost, its own inherent natural consequences. And for him, those consequences could be myriad, because as she prepares the lovely few drops necessary, she realizes part of his immediate dilemma. He has spent the day watching over her door, watching over her space. He has spent the day drinking coffee and polishing, cleaning, and repolishing his firearm. He has spent the day worried, as if some portion of what she is able to do and able to see has kept him from falling into sleep. As if the idea of all of those many conspiracies that he is aware of are not only factual, but beating down the door and breathing down their necks. The old adage of it takes one to know one is very much evident in her understanding of him right now.
She will, with a single finger, sort of sheepishly slide it down the counter towards him and take a step back.
He looks from the cup to her. Yeah, it's that time again. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to wake you up. You wouldn't believe what I put together. Do you know that the telecommunication companies that run WGN are secretly behind closed doors the same company that owns NBC, setting up a purposeful enemy and a local watering down of their own stories? I thought it was just a rumor, but then he takes the cup and drinks it down relatively quickly to keep from drawing attention to it. And he starts rifling through a stack of magazines and newspapers stacked so precariously that it would be easier to watch it fall than for it to still remain standing. The fact that it's there is in fact a miracle. There's no way that very precariously balanced stack of anything should still be upright, but it is. And like a magic trick, he's able to reach into it with a little bit of rifling with his fingers, snatch away one, then two, then three, and he sits it on the counter in front of you. And you see the same story being told by 3 different outlets, which is normally not a problem. The printed media copies itself quite often, but except for these are screenshots with the closed captioning on from 3 different news broadcasts, 2 on WGN and 1 on NBC. I know there's only a small sampling, but if you had the opportunity to make those connections and see that how soon before they start coming for us, because they track even when you watch news via the neighbors across the street. They know that we're paying attention, and it's only so long before they start beating down our doors. This is not a free country. You have to pay for it with blood, and they're coming for us. Oh God, I know they're coming for us, and I'm gonna give them a hell of a fight.
She will smile at him sheepishly and nod, and she will step over and kiss his forehead and say, I have stuff to do tonight. Will you be all right?
Oh yeah, I've already taken care of the bathroom. I have a step spike right beneath the window. They managed to climb up here and get through that window. I'm gonna work on your bedroom window soon, so remember, stay away from your window for a couple of feet. And you won't be able to see the spikes, but they're gonna be there. I also have I found out a way to really give a roller spike the justice that it deserves. And I'm gonna put that by the basement window, where you can come in downstairs, and make sure that when you come through that window, not you, but others come through that window without paying attention and knowing where to step, they'll slip right into a roller spike. And even for gifted people like you, losing several inches of the skin on your leg is more than enough to cause you to yell out and make sure that your sneakiness is rewarded with pain that you deserve for breaking into our space.
No, it's your space. I'm intruding. It's fine.
You're no burden at all, and we gotta stick together on this, because if it's not us, then it's just you and us, and I'm not anybody's S.
We got each other's backs, you know that.
Hell yeah. And he somehow reinvigorated, but even more paranoid thanks to the small sip that you provided him. Starts cleaning up the greasy mess of his breakfast.
Okay, I'm gonna take the old phone with me, so if you need me.
Be safe out there. Don't let them get you. I wouldn't know what to do without you.
They never get me. She'll kiss his forehead again and grab her coat and head out.
Chicago's an interesting thing because everyone believes, at least now, the current day, believes that the Windy City is about the hawk that tears through the town, owning everyone and anyone that it chooses. But in truth, that's not where the Windy came from. The Windy and the Windy City came because, as a monolithic entity, Chicagoans are fairly vainglorious. They are fairly boastful. Most things that they're boastful over are things that they have no hand in or can't control. Things such as, in fact, the wind, the cold, how difficult it is to make one's daily bread here, as if struggle and pain is something to be proud of. So heading out into the night, it's not difficult nor unaccustomed to see the many billboards along her way filled with this or that, or advertising this or that, the constant bombardment of attempting to sell things to her. What is unusual and what does strike her is there's been 3 police cars zooming past her, moving at a speed as if they have somewhere to be, and not one of them has had their sirens on. Not one of them has had their lights on. That's a rarity in any portion of the city, but especially this far north. They always use their lights and sound, oftentimes just to make it across the street, to make it past a red light, or to get to their hot date while still in uniform. The fact that they're hustling and bustling without lights and sound as if they're trying to keep something secret is about the most troubling thing that you've noticed in this world. Not in the many vistas of your mind's eye, but in this world, in this moment, that very much feels as if someone is walking across your grave. And speaking of walking across someone's grave, Lucio, there's only so much darkness that one can take. There's only so much cold one can put up with, because the cold and chill that you feel, even with the warmth of the closed door, is not coming from the outside world. It is very much the feeling that there's something in the dark near enough to put their hands on you. There's something in the dark near enough that they could act. You would never know that it happened. There is something near enough in the dark that even though you know you don't feel it, you know that there's nothing there. You are positive that you are alone. The door has not opened, but you feel as if something has encroached. Something has drawn near. It's not the spiders that you see that cause your skin to crawl. It's when you lose sight of it. And that's what you feel in this moment. There's something breathing down your neck, growing closer by the moment.
The first thing Lucio will try to do is turn on Oblivion Sight to see if that helps him identify anything.
Excellent. Would you be so kind as to roll your wits plus Oblivion for me, please?
Leave the dice.
It's a wonder, do you think, that you hadn't done this before. Trusting your relatively natural senses, your eyes, your ears, your nose, your sense of touch even, is far less powerful than your ability to peer into the darkness that holds not only this world, but this time and this version of events of the universe. Peering into that heart of darkness, opening your senses to the myriad of worlds around you. You realize that you have never been alone. You realize that this space that was formerly Whispers, formerly VV's, and God knows who else since, while not a hub, not a center such as the shelter itself, but in the path of and part of the circuit leading to the vent that is St. Jerome's. This space that you are inhabiting is a causeway between the very real Union Station-esque center that is the shelter and track 34 that is St. Jerome's. There are a myriad of souls moving past you. You feel their cold essences as they slip past you and continue on their path. There is the very real of power rocketing through you from the shelter towards St. Jerome's. There's the very real pull of all of that power, as if you are somehow anchored in the middle of a stream moving hard and fast, creating white waters just down the line from where you're standing. This space that you are in, you are a wonder why others have not been drawn to it, why others have not chosen to exploit it. It is right in the central path. You can siphon off whatever energy you need being here. And therein lies the problem. You have no understanding nor grasp of the full depth of what all of that mysticism that you are able to plug into means. But if you had just a little more knowledge, What could you have done? What could you have, in the few hours at night that you've been here, what could you have wreaked? What could you have set loose or set free? What could you have stolen? And no one would be any the wiser.
He'll add that somewhere on his to-do list to gain more knowledge. But for the time being, he's wondering if these souls are the source of that creeping feeling he was having earlier, because those souls have likely been there. So why is he only starting to feel this sensation now?
Something has changed. That much he is 100% willing to bet. Not only him, but he's assess upon. Something has drastically changed, and his sixth sense is tingling. If only he had the ability to see the invisible, not just the spiritual world.
He has an idea. You said there are spirits here, correct? That they are actively here?
Actively moving hither and thither and gaining strength from the ebb and flow of energies between the shelter and where St. Jerome's is, blocks east.
He's going to point towards one of them and say, "You, come here for a moment."
There's magic that we all have. We very rarely utilize it to its full potential. Most of us aren't even completely aware of it until it's far too late. There's a magic that we all have in that we can see each other. We can really, truly reach across the boundless space and see the other travelers on this road of our lives. We rarely use it. Most people put their heads down and stare into their phones, or put their noses down and stare into their books, or otherwise close their eyes and shield and cut off that magic of being able to connect with another living entity. But when we don't, and we make that connection across miles, across feet, sometimes even just as simple as a smile and a nod on your way. No exchanging of words, just the acknowledging of the other entity around us is a form of magic. And in this moment, Lucio does the unthinkable. The soul still trapped here, or having fought to be here, being noticed by something that is neither hunting them or attempting to call them into some machine, something that is not attempting to force their service. Being seen is magic. As you point imperiously towards it, it sees the flickering faint warmth of your life, your existence, and smiles. Its bald head, its very male energy, its roomy eyes and back stooped with labors, moves closer to you, curious. What sort of trick is this? Something sees me. Something beholds me. Something is attempting to talk to me.
You know what I am.
No, I know you can see me. So you can do me a favor. I don't know if you're into sports or not, but tell me, did we finish Soldier's Field? Tell me, Please tell me we didn't waste all of that taxpayer money. Tell me we didn't waste all of that time building it.
Out of character. Is it finished?
It has been. The original Soldiers Field has been finished and was a local landmark for years. Even the redo and the retrofitting has been done for nearly 30 plus years. It is always, as long as you've known and been alive, finished.
It's been around and operating for as long as I can remember.
What year is it?
— 2023.
100 years? Oh God. Oh God. Oh no. I no. No. 100 years? Oh God. God, they've definitely forgot about me. Oh God.
And who are you?
Edwin Chumlewicz. I was one of the laborers. We were transporting a load of iron from Northerly Field because Gary was running behind, and so we had to rush. We had to work overnight. And as he's clearly reliving the moment internally, you can briefly see flickering in his image as he stands before you a iron steel based rod protruding through his chest. It's roughly the size of your fist and forearm in diameter. You can see his right arm hanging by a sliver from where the weight crashed down on him, the other rods that were being used. All over him, you can see the dust of concrete settling as the weight ground him into nothingness. You can see the effects of one of the many construction accidents that took place during the building of the original Soldier Field. You can see the effects of giving your all to a company, to any enterprise that is not your own. And it's why he said 100 years. 1923, he was on the finishing final aspects of the back portion of Soldier Field, the construction of what is now a parking lot connecting it with the museum campus. All of the iron rods put into place, drilled in and bored in, and the many that lost their existence. And as he's flickering with doubt and trying to come to grips with the fact that he is still here, or is once more here, and 100 years has passed, he begins to try to gain control of himself. And it's a lot to deal with. Things out there in the night, no longer what they once were. Your life's work, having stood for 100 years. Or so he thinks. He doesn't know about the redesign, retrofitting.
You seem a bit troubled. I know that spirits like you don't stick around for so long unless they have some unfinished business. So I'm guessing it has something to do with that field, correct?
Yes, of course. Yes, of course. Soldiers Field. We were building a stadium to last. We were bringing money into the city. My wife always said we shouldn't have left Gary. Gary had such a better potential for where it was going. Steel is the way of the future. Tell me, do we have flying cars yet?
No, but we're still working on that. But we do have electric cars now.
No, we've always had electric cars. Gas is the way of the future, they said. Why are we going backwards? Why are we going back to electric cars?
It's a long story, and I don't think you should trouble yourself over it too much. But I have let's call it a business proposition.
He takes a step.
Would you like to see the field again? Would you like to see your life's work complete?
I would love to. It was a testament to this country and our armed forces. It's even unfinished. It is a beautiful stadium, and it can sit thousands.
Then here are my terms. I will take you to the stadium that you gave your life for. In exchange, I need you to act as my eyes into see certain things that I cannot. My kind are capable of essentially becoming invisible to the naked eye. However, I have a feeling that spirits like you may not be affected by such abilities. So I need you to tell me if there's any other kindred in this room with us right now. Do that, and let's say within the next 2 months, I will make a trip to the field and bring you there.
Wait. By kindred, you mean what? Like vampires?
And Lucio will pull back his mouth a little and show one of his fangs.
Oh. And he looks over your shoulder. Then he looks over his shoulder. Can all of you all see us?
No. Only some of us can see you. In fact, I'd wager that only a very small portion of us can.
And he looks over your shoulder, taking a step back. And would you be so kind as to go ahead and roll your Wits plus Awareness DC 4 to avoid the sneak attack that is bearing down on you.
Wits plus Awareness. 7. Does having heightened senses help at all?
No, you don't have Auspex.
I do have Auspex.
See, there you go. You need Sense Unseen, but we'll give you no penalty on your roll. You're still going to need the 4. So you don't get...
Okay. So...
As he takes a step back, you immediately notice something that shouldn't be happening is in the happening. You get an opportunity to avoid what is landing where you are with no penalties. Be so kind as to roll counter to what they will roll for their attack with no minuses in the moment. I don't know why people call that a funny bone. It's not very funny when it happens to you.
I think because the pain kind of makes you laugh.
Or is it because it's called humorous? What am I rolling for this?
If you're going to go on the attack and pretty much blindly lash out, that would be a strength plus brawl. If you're going on a just evasive maneuver, that would be a dexterity plus athletics to get out of where you're currently standing.
I'm going to... I'm going to evade first. So, you said Dex and Athletics?
Yes.
Oh, they... I'm gonna willpower that one.
Okay. You felt this pain before. You felt what it's like to have your skin sliced open. You felt what it's like to have that slicing of your flesh and the muscles beneath driven by supernatural strength. But just because it's happened before doesn't make the pain any easier. You will take 4 unhalved superficial damage as the Nosferatu seem to materialize mid-swing. Their skeletal elongated fingers sporting what effectively looks like eagle talons as the two of them converge. If you were to, imagine what a Nosferatu might look like, they definitively fit the bill. The taller, seemingly more menacing, his bald pate with tufts of dead hair flowing and hanging as if he's some skeletal version of a Harlequin romance-covered hero. His black frock and white priest collar standing in direct contrast to the wreck and ruin that he is. His associate, clearly the subordinate, is as unlike him as you can possibly be, whereas he's tall and strong even with all of the skeletal issues that he's dealing with. It was clear that during life he was some person of girth. The subordinate, shorter, smaller, squatter, somehow thinner, and you know that in life was probably sickly. The lopsided grin on his face as he clearly enjoys the inflicting of pain. The exact mirror of the taller of the two. Saying, "You took something from me, and I will take you from them. We know you're all the same. The fucking shelter."
Less talk, more dying, and Muzan. I almost got into the wrong character there. Oh boy. As I was saying, Lucio is going to throw up Tenebrous Avatar. When the bloodlust starts flowing, I just can't help slipping into Muzan's personality sometimes.
Completely understandable. And while that's your offensive action,
yes,
to attack with that. Oh, that is not good. But it's better than it could have been.
Is it? This is just the rouse check.
Yeah, I'm aware of that. This is
5 hunger, baby.
Frying pan and fire all at once. The conflagration of heat is so high and strong that even in the protected inside the grease of the frying pan, everything begins to melt into one singular instance of semi-solid matter. And instead of dousing the flames, it causes them to raise higher and higher. The beast is here. There's no other way to envision this except for things have gone completely and totally off the rails. Your beast waiting in the background, attempting to be patient and seize its moment, wholly seizes you in the midst of this. There is no plan, there is no calculated actions. It is all about feasting and feeding, and even these dead, emaciated things hold something in them. Would you be so kind as to roll 1/3 of your humanity in your unspent willpower? It is effectively a standard DC because you are in fact cut open. You are in fact cut to the quick. Your vitae is very much on the nose.
I think I'm doing my math right.
You manage to keep from falling into the fiery abyss of your beast's full control, but it is in fact urging you forward. It is in fact demanding you feed. You know that there is only a few moments that you might survive the double onslaught from within and from without. And speaking of from within, as you and Hestia stand over the body of the officer, with Hestia outlining a course of actions and suggesting you all need to figure this out, what is Miriam's suggestion for how these two will best accomplish those goals?
So we could always go with the they've been roughed up and left for dead in an alley. That seems to be a favorite. Doesn't really mean patching up though. Doesn't really explain the getting patched up and trying to shoot themselves either.
You know, it's just kill him.
Absolutely not.
Well, it's far more believable for a Chicago police officer to fall prey to some graft or some crime than from some good Samaritan. It's far more believable. This is, after all, you know, the Windy City. The city of big shoulders. The city where only the rough and tumble survive.
Maybe so. However, that does not take the heat off the shelter.
No, but some things are easier to deal with. You all know violence, you all know pain, you all know the constant pressure and assailing of the world at large. Since you've joined forces with them, since you've become part of their unit, since you have existed here, it has been one long fight for survival, night after night. Even the quiet nights, caught up in the dreck and dross of the coterie as they are, has been levels of pain you had not believed possible. This is a paradise when it comes to those seeds needing to be buried, need to be tried through pain and suffering. If you were truly part of the church, if you were truly part of the garden, if you were truly a Bahari, you would have most assuredly earned whatever it is that you are flowering into.
Damn it all. The most plausible is we could potentially drive him up to the hospital and boot him out. That happens a lot, especially for certain hospitals.
Indeed. And the problem with that is the fact that you already know St. Mary's there on Ashland. And it's not a full trauma unit hospital, but they would be able to transport him elsewhere that was a full trauma center. You know that with them being outside of the normal or the larger medical networks, that there would be a loss in translation of all of their details. The way that they keep their medical files is not unified with the larger systems. It's compatible, but it does require some skill to translate between the two without any errors, which is rarely ever done. Everyone's concerned about covering their own selves, that when they do make an error, they make sure that they have someone else or something else to blame. And the easiest thing is the fact that St. Mary's keeps its own system of records. The fact that you're able to think of that so quickly and actually consider it with all due merit is a glaring example of where you were months ago when you arrived here for the simple protection and coverage of Chicago's most glorified hounds, those that have stood against elders and Ensela and were allies to the Bahari. They were allies to the grandmother herself, Azuli. Yet now it's all in pain and suffering and death. And it's hard to not look at your own hands and realize that if you had missed by 1/4 of an inch, the artery that runs alongside the inside of the leg would have been punctured. If you had not been so quick acting and determined, he would have bled out, having lost a finger. If you had not been connected with this coterie, the life of that lupine you took willingly wouldn't be on your conscience, wouldn't be on your soul. The number of lives that the shelter has gone through could feel a high rise. The number of lives that you've incidentally and directly taken is no small number. It's larger than zero. It's larger than it was months ago. And then that poor woman in Dalton, that poor sacrifice that Sophia and you and Hestia committed, allowed. And while those thoughts are assailing, it's only as you're drifting deeper into that skid, as you're turning into that spin out, that you realize that as intrusive as your beast is, it's never so offensive. As intrusive as your beast is with his thoughts and his recriminations, it is never so hostile. Speaking of hostile and what to do with the night, Asha, after explaining your idea or offering the options that you did, what is it that you are about? What is your next direct action?
Next direct action is to head to where she knows he parked his car to get the phone. And then she'll bring it back because she probably needs him to unlock it.
You are home. You are in your domain. You are wholly within the safety and sanctity of what the shelter is. Not even just the area around the shelter building, but you are on the shelter's property. Why is it that the hairs on the back of your neck are standing on end? Why does it feel as if you're running across a minefield? The moment you exit on the second floor out of the shelter's haven into the parking garage to make your way downstairs to where his car was, it feels very much as if you are running across no man's land. It is very much evident in your soul that if you misstep now, you're gonna lose a limb, maybe more. If you're lucky, you'll only lose a limb. But there is the immediate pervasive feeling of every step is one step closer to a mine, one step closer to obliterating all that you have. Do you continue? Do you take any precautions? Do you freeze? What is it that Hesher does with that feeling bearing down on her as if the sky itself had opened up and emptied the entirety of its weight on her?
Let me see what I have here, because I think I know I have Sentiency, and she's had that for a while, but I want to do... I'm actually going to slip into heightened senses, just to make sure that nothing sneaks up on her. She doesn't want to be doing Sentiency just yet, because if she's too focused on what's around her that nobody else can see, she's not going to see the things that everybody can see. But definitely going to do heightened senses and make sure that she's got her blades on her as she heads to the car, and she's going to try to make it quick as possible.
Okay. When you just go ahead and roll your dexterity athletics -1. Stepping out into the garage, your ears peaked for any sound that's out of place. Your nose open for any scent that seems even remotely unlike what you are expecting. Your eyes being able to see with clarity not only the license plate, but the gauge and the amount of air pressure needed on each of the tires on each of the vehicles ahead of you. The annoying little buzz of the neon light of the garage causing an echo inside of your ear. Reaching up your left hand, you give your ear a quick rub to try to dull down that electric buzzing from the light above your head. And then it happens. It moves. It happens quicker than you ever thought pain could rocket and race through you. The glaring slash along your left side, tearing open your arm and most of your rib as it slides past your back, is an explosive, breathtaking amount of pain. Hesher's been through hell and back. She has suffered all manner of injuries several times in certain instances. This very much is not the average normal. Her dead flesh opens as if it has always been that way, as if it is the most natural of things for her insides to be open to the cool Chicago night air. You
And
Could you please mark down 3 non-half superficial health levels?
Ooh.
Hestia is a player of games, a master of puzzles. The mysteries of the world as it is, as it should be, as it could be, all dance around her mind constantly. The solution of things, how to get from A to Z and back again. The best way to solve the mysteries, to find out and reveal the truths to herself and the world around her. It's her avocation. It is her hobby. It is her goal in most things. There's no mystery what happens here. She can see it falling into place like dominoes. Last night, when she felt the presence near at hand, it very much was. The attack that she was braced for preparing to dull the edges of is here. The cavalry has come to retrieve their ghoul. In other words, the battle was joined, and the only thing that saved them from direct and punitive actions last night, Hestia remained inside the safety and sanctity of the building. She took a step out, turned back around, fleeing back inside. But it is clear that they are scouting the location and they are armed for destruction. They are coming and they are here. There's no mystery in that. Everything is laid out for her in one series of events, each adding to the next.
Well, now, obviously, I think she's going to have to go to Sensi Unseen, and they're going to fucking have to catch her if they're going to do anything else.
Excellent. Would you be so kind as to roll your wits plus total of your aspects versus their steady and okay. Let's see what happens, shall we? What does fate have in store for you? As you, by you saying they have to catch her, are you fleeing back into the safety and sanctity of your warded haven, or are you going to race across the garage?
Oh no, they're getting further away from safety here. We're gonna go back towards safety and ring the fucking alarm.
There are some things that you wish to never look on again. The face of the woman that is attempting to eviscerate you is one of those things. You have this image in your head of what Nosferatu are. They're tall, thin. Some are burned, some are clearly scarred, some, look a little wetter than they should, but they look mostly human. That is not in fact the case with this one. She has a magnificent mane of tawny blonde hair. It is in fact sticking up at odd angles and is far too much for her very small head. But her head isn't small because it's thin. It's because she literally is that small. She is barely 3 feet 5 inches tall, but she is corpulent. She looks as if you took a lion and squeezed it down, condensing everything, but still allowing it to weigh nearly 300 to 500 pounds. Her face looks as if you took a 40-pound sledgehammer to a mountain of clay, and wherever you struck was an orifice, an eye here. They're not equal. There's no balance between left and right sides of her face. It looks as if someone literally took a sledgehammer to a mountain of clay and just pounded 3, 4, that's 6 holes into it. There's one droopy eye that is glaring red as she snarls her flaps, because they're not really skin. There's something else there. Snarls and shakes and vibrates as she stalks around you and prepares for another leap. She is a walking breach. If her skills at hiding herself were not so high, you are sure that all manner of calls would have been made. And it's only made worse by the fact that the threadbare semblance of clothing that she is wearing marks her as something feral. It's dripping and sopping even in this cold Chicago night air. And while there's no scent to it, just from the sheer volume of dirt clinging to her and to it, beneath all of that sopping wetness, it makes you envision the sewer. It makes you envision a cesspit, and her swimming through it, her eyes just above the waterline, roomy and droopy though they are, filled with the malice that she is here to collect lives. And speaking of collecting lives, leaving your ghoul, Lolly, visions of sugar plums dancing in your head, the Chicago Hawk having its way with you in a multiplicity of manners, and you're sure that you, even dead, may no longer be solely yourself. Where is it that you are heading?
She will, she is a little peckish. Maybe she'll go look for some food. But, she will call the shelter. On her way to whatever little watering hole that she hunts at.
Thank you for calling a Harrisburg's shelter. How can we help you today? And if it wasn't so pleasantly delivered, your teeth would grind hearing Elmira. She's the only one that calls you Lauren, or Laurel, or accidentally Laura instead of Lolly. She's the only one that is dismissive of everyone that she's purportedly helping. She's clearly good at her job because she gives great a phone. And it sounds like a welcoming, inviting place, even though you've seen her in person and have dismissed her as much as she's dismissed each and every one of the homeless outsiders of the shelter. Hello?
Hey, Elvira, it's Laurel. Can I talk to Miss Green, please?
Miss Green hasn't been in this evening. Is there a message?
I don't know. Does she have a message?
That's a good question. As Lolly stands there listening to Elmira breathe, and she can hear in the distance on the phone the happiness, because there's clearly a ceremony, some party going on. You can hear people, loudly talking and engaging in the sound, the sort of room sounds that let you know that there's a party in mid-swing. And hearing that sound of people being happy versions of themselves causes a remembrance of the nightmare she just had. They're sitting ducks. They are crabs in a barrel. as someone is aiming not just a shotgun, but a Hellfire missile down into that barrel. Hello?
Yes.
Is there a message for when she actually comes in?
Yeah, can you tell her that everyone there is in danger?
What?
That's the message. That's the whole message.
Yeah,
everyone there is in danger. Stop.
Okay, I'll pass this along. Oh my god. And she hangs.
Yeah, okay. She'll slide her little old school antique phone back in her pocket.
There is a saying that God bless the child that has his own. God bless the person that can help themselves. And it often harkens back to the idea of pulling yourself up by your own bootstrap. But somewhere along the way, Lolly has heard or read or had a vision, but that's not what the saying, what the quote was actually supposed to mean. The quote was supposed to mean doing the impossible. And as much as everyone likes the idea of overnight success or being self-made men and women, captains of industry, nothing ever happens through the efforts of one person. One person can be the catalyst, but no one can lift themselves up. It takes a village. It takes a united effort. It takes all hands pulling for that overnight success that usually takes a decade, sometimes two, to get that level of success. It takes daring failure of the impossible for any true success to happen. What that means in a moment and how it possesses her, she's not entirely sure.
She will grumble to herself and head for the L to go over to the shelter. They keep interfering with her feeding.
Several things happen, as they always do. The elevated, the subway train here in Chicago, the Red Line, that is the thoroughfare and life's blood, the arterial line for the city, is owned. But because it's such a large city, and because there are so many people living, dead, and all of the steps in between, it's not like other cities where a particular Nosferatu will claim dominion over an entire train line or will claim dominion over an entire subway tunnel. No, here they share. The tunnels are separate from the train car so long as no one exits them, and each train car can and is often owned by a different principality. Bracing for the worst, praying for the best, Lolly gets back onto the subway, gets back onto the Red Line to head north again. And yet again, by luck of the draw, she ends up on the same train. The same female Nosferatu, very close and watching her intimately. Though this time, she actually gets up and crosses the distance as you settle in.
Ollie will give her a cheerful little wave.
You're making this a habit, aren't you?
It was something important. I couldn't avoid it. I could have done it in a way you wouldn't see me.
I doubt that very much. But I will give you another pass instead of having you pay a tithe. Because where would that get us? A little money must be spent to make money, after all, right?
I suppose.
Oh, don't suppose. It is in fact the truth. Scared money doesn't make any money. And you remind me of someone.
You might have some information I might be interested in. Maybe we could barter for that.
Oh, really? Now you're talking my, my game, as it were. What is it that you might be curious to know?
Seems one of your cousins has drawn an unhealthy sort of interest in a certain well-known homeless shelter.
Oh, don't tell me you're falling for that old dead chestnut.
No, I was there.
Do tell.
He was protecting someone's little pet. Wasn't his little pet because he ran off and left it to die. But he did cut a swath of destruction on his way out.
Wait, are you
But
saying...
there was another one.
Wait, are you saying that the the shelter, the hounds are under attack from Bordrov? That is hilarious. Well, wait a minute. That's not hilarious. He couldn't move against them. And she gets up and stands to her feet. She's surprisingly tall. And by surprisingly, I mean that the top of her head, the crown of her head, is actually touching the top of the subway car, the ceiling itself. Her arms are nearly as tall as you are. They're nearly as long as you are tall. And even though she's dressed to impress, it is clear that they are ill-fitting. She doesn't have enough meat on her bones to fill them out. What is your name?
Lolly.
Lolly, consider this fair trade, and your tithe to me and my tithe to you. Do not truck with the shelter. If they are not destroyed in the process, then Bordrov will definitely seek to destroy those who assist them. That's all I can tell you for free in fair exchange. I must be going. Martin will love to hear this. And she moves towards the door, perfectly timing it so that as the doors open, she moves off before the few drunken college kids start staggering onto the car.
Lolly will tap her fingernails on the seat, trying to process what she's just been told. Does she have any idea who this guy is? She heard the name before.
She has, actually. One of the many things that you heard in group counseling when Newberry was still holding sessions, back when you all had a full contingent of therapy members. There was a priest in days of old that hunted and killed the kindred in Chicago. From Chicago all the way out east, down south, and back. He was a holy terror. And then he disappeared. And 2 to 3 years later, a Nosferatu, a member of the clan in Orlok with the same name, was attending religious sessions with Khalid, being hounded and watched by Cedric, causing fights and problems with Martin.
Well, he sounds perfect to some of the other things that I've seen and imagined. She will ride the rest of the way quietly, turning that over in her mind, wishing she'd brought the newer phone so that she had headphones.
There's a certain amount of truth to every lie, and a certain amount of implausible fiction to every truth. This is one of those things that straddles that line of what actually is happening and what could be happening, and somehow manages to be wholly unexpected in the sheer amount of potential damage. There is hell a-coming. And it's probably already here. Getting off at Morris and making your way over west towards the shelter. It's funny that every time you take this way and you walk past St. Jerome's, a certain amount of religiosity takes over. A certain amount of, it doesn't make any sense, but it couldn't hurt crossing yourself as you go about it. It doesn't really help or hinder, but maybe not whistling as you do so. That is an old wives' tales, but you cross the street so that you don't walk directly in front of it on the same side of the street with as it all the same. Doesn't make any sense, doesn't add up, but you are sure that doing those things keeps you safe, or at least safer than you might be. On your way there, is there any other incident action that you are attempting?
No, unless, a quick bite presents itself, but she's not really looking hard, so. And she's not exceptionally hungry for her either, so.
Sounds like a plan. So making your way towards the shelter. Surviving the walk and trek across moors. Not attracting too much attention to yourself. Doing your best to get there. Your mind awash in the details and facts that you've learned and earned. The decision as to what to do still sits there. There's something in the offing, something not quite safe. And speaking of not quite safe, Lucio, you keep the beast at bay. You keep the beast from taking full hold of you. And your flesh begins shifting into your tenebrous state. You become a living shadow. At least that's the plan. That's the goal. That's the aim of the moment. You are a destructive avatar of the end of all things in such a state. The question becomes, do you have unseen presence? Are you able to sense the unseen?
Nope, I am not. I have heightened senses and I have oblivion sight. But if they've already attacked, then at least one of them is visible. And the other one spoke.
Yes, he did. He's looking directly at you. And the lesser one, the shorter one, is diving in as only an angry, piss-poor semblance of life can.
And he's gonna be the first to die. So, to answer the original question, no, Lucio does not have a way to sense the unseen. But he will try to attack the one that he can see, the one that just tried to attack him.
There is a moment of disbelief that falls across Lucio. He's never seen it happen. He's always been distracted or turned away or otherwise focused on something else. The small thing bounces off the walls, tumbling and twirling, and putting on quite the show. And when Lucio looks back to where the taller was, there's nothing there, but the smaller one is leaping through and slashing at and attempting to harm the shadow. And the taller one, the clear leader, the clear brain of this duo, is no longer there.
Well, then Lucio's going to focus his attention on the one that is there, and he is hungry, he is pissed, he wants to rip this motherfucker to shreds.
Your attacks are virtually almost impossible to dodge in this particular situation, at this close range. There's something wholly monstrous, even as Lucio is savaging this small ball of fury. There's something more monstrous in the fact there were two. There was a promise of violence. Yet the moment that Lucio became phantasmal, there's only one left to attack. There's only one pouring their all into fighting the discorporated form of Lucio's shadow being. There's something monstrous about leaving someone that fights with you behind. It's a level of monstrous that most of the enemies you've had, most of the things that you've faced thus far, never actually managed to cross. They're all in together. They're some semblance of care, some semblance of consideration. But as you tear this ball of fluff apart, as you tear this skeletal avatar of destruction apart, there's something disquieting about that.
So, in that case, Lucio has a feeling that there's two possibilities. One, he's just waiting off into in the corner for when Lucio lets down his guard. Or two, he's already making his way into the shelter. One more time, what was the spirit's name?
So you call out to him?
Yes.
It's a little difficult. You are a shadow avatar of nothingness.
That's fair. You know what? Before we do that, then, because Lucio is at 5 hunger, can Lucio recover hunger in his tenebrous avatar form?
He cannot.
Is the kindred still alive? Because his plan is to take some blood from him.
Well, Kindred was never alive, and doing enough grievous damage to put them down, there's still vitae in that corpse. They haven't ashed, they haven't faded into nothingness, and you've seen enough Kindred die to know that there's a definitive line that was once crossed. Even still, there's a sup or a sip therein.
Lucio's going to try and drag it to a safe corner, one where his back is to the wall, so that if an attack is coming in, he can see it coming straight in front of him. Okay, and if I do this, is it going to end up diablerizing him? Because Lucio does not want to diablerize him.
Well, there's nothing to it but to do it. There's only one way to find out. Are you prepared to fuck around?
Lucio's gonna have to fuck around because he doesn't really have much other choice right now. He's gonna try and recover 1 hunger. And
Is he gonna try to stop it? One is the question.
yes.
Excellent. Would you be so kind as to go ahead and roll 1/3 of your humanity, your unspent willpower, and your DC is unfortunately 3.
1/3 humanity, unspent willpower. Do I add hunger to this or no?
No.
Actually, what is my unspent willpower? It is still the same. Okay. I ate the skin of his fangs.
There is every reason. There is every valid understanding of balance and fairness and fair, equitable exchange to sink your fangs and not pull them free until you've drunken your fill. Yet, some portion of Lucio manages to stave off his beast, manages to stave off his darker inclinations, manages to stave off what comes very, very all too natural once his tongue is wet by the fading vitae that he has to suck extraordinarily hard to pull into himself. His neck is strained and the muscles in his back are bowed as he pulls himself free before crossing that last line, that one step too far that he's managed to keep from doing thus far. But it is not without some effort. He gnashes his teeth together, grinding them to near dull copies of themselves, his fangs retracting with all the effort of someone holding up the world itself. When he sits as the kindred, the Nosferatu that he is drunken from, begins to fail and flag. You can always tell a kindred's age upon death. The older and longer existing they are, the quicker that their corpse desiccates into a mountain of ash, till their corpse desiccates into dust, till their corpse begins to liquefy. It's clear that the kindred in your arms is not nearly that old. The already emaciated form and gaunt facade simply dries and simply lessens. No ashing, no desiccating, just a nice dry, nearly onion skin thin skin wrapped around the corpse, the bones beneath. The muscles already gone. And speaking of already gone, Miriam knows her voices. Miriam knows her voices and the voices that have most recently besieged her. And while this one seems similar, while this seems close, it is not anything that she has normally had inside her mind.
Oh, goody.
It's as if someone has found the cheat code, the binary switches inside of her, and they're playing with the circuit breakers. It's as if something is attempting to hack her. But that's an impossibility.
We'll frown and look around.
The moment she takes her eyes off of the detective, no longer monitoring his vitals, no longer giving herself time for inner introspection, she begins to feel better about her decisions. She begins to feel more at home in herself. She begins to feel that she was on the right path. And there, beneath all of that slowly swelling good feelings, is the very real fact that she wants to look at the detective again.
All right. Nothing is popping out at her, so she will turn back to what she was doing.
Would you be so kind as go ahead and roll your intelligence plus occult?
Does unseen presence account for anything?
Yes. You may add your understanding of that, i.e. a dot, towards your roll. Close.
That happened.
But 2/3 of a success is still more success than you would have had if not having a base to work from, a base of experiences to pull from. Miriam knows what it's like to have a presence not her own inhabit her mind and her thoughts. Miriam knows intimately what it's like to have another entity invade her to attempt a hostile takeover. Miriam also understands that Kindred have wild abilities. They're able to exist invisibly close. She knows that the detective is either housing something or being utilized in a way to subvert her.
She will look at her watch and figure out how close is he to actually waking up. It should be fairly soon.
26 very tense minutes. And it should be, and the chemicals in his system should be lax enough that based on his own strength and internal clock, he should be rousing.
All right. Not wanting to tempt fate because she's, still happy to have her own head back. will just kick back and watch, waiting for Hestia to come back.
She's going to just stay in the same room. Stay close to the detective who's being used as a broadcaster of whatever is attempting to subvert her.
Yep. I mean, she's a little crazy, but...
Alright, sounds like a plan. Would you be so kind as to go ahead and roll your resolve plus composure? Your DC is 3. You feel it happening by degrees. It's glacially slow, but it falls over you with a driving personality that is just separate enough for your own that you begin to pick up the details. It's as if someone's utilizing those children's toys where you whisper into a pipe on one side of the playground and your friends on the other side would hear it. It's too far away for your voice to carry, but yet it's somehow magnified in intensity without raising an actual volume. And you feel it crawling over your skin, slowly seeking larger orifices than your pores to creep into you. And it takes some level of concentration for you to keep it out, from keeping it from connecting with your own beast and whispering all of those sweet, destructive nothings in your ear. But you feel it. It's like sweat rolling over your skin, but going the wrong way. And speaking of going the wrong way, as the slash tears through you and you pivot and spin and duck, dip and dodge, you're heading back into the building, correct, Hestia?
Yeah, she needs to let the others know that they're being attacked. Not away from the building where she can jump further in the building.
Excellent. As you're moving to duck back through the door, which we still kind of roll your dexterity, athletics, plus celerity, contestedly. You don't get a minus this time because you know that there's something out there in this space that intends to end you, even as it's attempting to blend and fade from your view as it charges and bounces and dodges towards you. You like this hoodie, and you'll never admit to anyone why you like this hoodie. It is in fact one of the hoodies that Dizzy left in her things. And by her things, she left it with your clothes that got laundered. It's one of the few things that she still left and had here at the shelter. And just grabbing things to put on, you didn't really think much of it until you hear the additional rip and shred of it as her claws rake across your back and the doors close, keeping her out there in the garage and you inside the safety of the shelter. Close enough that you could very well feel mentally the effects of her claws raking across your skin. You know she didn't tear open more of your flesh. You know that she didn't tear out your spinal column, but it very much feels as if it was so very close that it's all but a done deal. That thing, because you don't want to consider it the same as you. You're not animalistic. You're not so screwed over by the kiss that looking upon you is looking upon all the horrors of the world. But that thing is very much what would happen to you if you were, well, anyone else, anything else. If you didn't have the shelter to keep what semblance of your humanity remains, if you didn't have the coterie members that you've met along the way until now, if you had not come out of your hermitage upon Karen's death, you could be that wild and savage. Even now, without thinking, your sacrificial blade, your ceremonial blade is in your hand. The urge to do violence is very, very strong. Part of it is the how dare they have the audacity. Part of it is you empathize with what may be driving them. You took something of theirs. It doesn't matter that they allowed it to head into harm's way, but if someone, something took something from you and put it into harm's way, there's very little in this world or the next that you would not move to eventually get your leg back. So bounding into the shelter, do you head back towards Miriam, or do you head downstairs to where your human staff and the members of the community actually are?
She's gonna put the knife away as she's moving and whip out her phone to text Miriam. We're surrounded. I just got attacked. We need to find Lucio. But she's heading for the first floor to make sure that nothing's going on with the humans.
It's only as she gets to the secret entrance out of the office, out of the space behind the office closet door into the office, that she realizes the damage that was done over the last few nights that makes that a dead end. She is facing the rubble and destruction of the previous nights and knows that she can't get through there. Not safely. Not without causing a scene and a stir. And as she's standing here at the rubble and wreck of what has happened, she also realizes that entering into the shelter as she stands covered in soot, dust, and the damage from those inhuman claws, there's no way that she'd be able to hide that she was anything other than dead. Those claws slice cleanly down to the bone. Her flesh is all but flayed open, butterfly. There's no way that she would be able to survive such a thing and still be alive. And standing there, looking at the wreck and the ruin and the many difficulties laying ahead for her, Miriam, did you have your phone out, or is it vibrating in your pocket?
It is likely vibrating in my pocket.
And that sensation is going off. There's a semblance of potential. You staved off an attack. You staved off something crawling into you. And yet, Lolly, getting to the shelter, getting there, there's a real feeling that you are walking into or walking out onto a very thin limb of a tree. And there's the feeling that you're flying through the air with the greatest of ease, except for there's no one on the other trapeze to catch you. You're leaping and turning to where your partner should be there, arms outstretched, the swing timed perfectly, and there's no one there.
Well, having a good idea that she's walking into a dangerous situation or about to be dangerous situation, she is going to move unseen because she knows the Nosferatu are good at that, but not as good at seeing it. So
Would you be so kind as to roll your, just as a test here, your dexterity and your obfuscate? The moment she blinks out of his distance, the moment where the electromagnetic waves that she's putting off causes those around her to no longer see her, those who would be looking to where she might be, but they turn slightly to the left or slightly to the right. Once those waves are emanating from her, the moment that falls over her, she feels a breeze move past her, but there's nothing and no one there.
She will use her special eyes to see if there's someone there.
Excellent. Just going to go ahead and roll your resolve plus aspects, please.
That was my rouse there for visibility. That is a 3.
It is. There is a phantasmal shape. You only know this or feel this through just the passage of air, like there's a mass and a weight that moves past you. There's a presence as if you are passing beneath the Pope's gown, as if you're passing beneath his robe, and you dare not look up. It's either it's too large, too small, or the fact that it's there at all bothers you on a level that most things shouldn't. It's as if you are able to see that the Emperor does in fact have new clothes, but they are made of the most transparent of cellophane. You feel horribly out of sorts. You see too much, you know too much, and there's nothing but pain that lies in that path. You've come close to God, and he is very angry with you, is what you feel.
Well, let's not stick our genitals in the hornet's nest then and be about our business.
Moving into the shelter, you were right earlier. There is a party going on. There is still cake present. People are still congregating in small clumps, 2 and 3 here. You see Elmira at the desk, and she sucks her teeth the moment that she sees you and turns away and starts talking to one of the other residents. You can smell Amalia's cooking wafting through the place, and it's something clearly a little spiced, a little sweet, something that is designed to be almost the perfect bite of fried, crunchy goodness, good sweetness, a lot of heat, and a hint of sour. It is definitely an umami evening. And there you see Donnell moving into one of the other rooms, carrying a couple of pillows and blankets for whoever's inside. The place is humping and jumping, and people are lively and celebrating. There was a party, there still is a party, but you know that there's danger close enough to breathe down everyone's neck. What is it that you do?
I am visible again.
You are invisible.
Okay, you said something about the desk lady sucking her teeth when she saw me.
Yes, she did. She looked in your direction and turned away.
I get it. She will stop and wish she could have some cake, but she cannot have cake, so she goes to look for the others, starting with the office, because that seems to be where they hang out.
There are some times that you should not go peering into the dark. This is not one of those times. You hear something, you feel a presence. You're a dowsing rod and there's water there. So you move towards the closet. And there's no one in the room, so you know that opening your door should not cause you to be visible to anyone. Do you?
Is it a solid wooden door, or has it got a window on it, or?
No, it's a solid wooden door.
She will listen at the door. And then she will check for traps.
Crouched and listening and paying very close attention to the door between this office and the secret entrance into the Haven. Hestia, having come this far, the glow of your phone still illuminating the darkness all around you and the wreck and rubble of the previous night's instances where Lucio put it into the rodent incursion on the shelter. Is this where Hestia is stealing a moment for herself? There's no one down here. No one could tell that she's having a moment. It's quiet, even with the wreck and ruin of all that happened before. She's as safe as she can be, because her wards are clearly more painful for some than others.
She realizes she doesn't really have time to have a moment. I mean, she's cussing up a blue streak about having to go around and freaking backtrack her way back to get inside the building in a different way. But then it's not like her self-indulgently just standing there trying to sort it out. She literally runs into the rubble, starts cursing, and starts to turn back around in a tirade of every language she knows, heading back and to start trying to get into the Haven itself, or a different part of the Haven itself, to get back to Miriam, because realizing she looks a mess, she can't explain. She's already having to explain too much different things to people, so it's better go get Miriam. We need to find Lucio. We're under attack.
Hearing that, Lolly,
I hear her in the office, or she's moving by me, or...
you're in the office and there's no one there, but from the other side of the door, from the other side of the entrance into the Haven, you hear Heshia's voice cursing up a storm, cursing up a blue streak, and then you hear motion.
She will get out of the way of the door.
Moving back away from the door, in the office proper though she is, she feels Hestia moving away from her. Hestia's moving at a good clip. There's no way that with her heightened reflexes and that you don't hear that noise. There's no stealth to it. There's just all out and out speed, reckless abandon. And you realize you're standing at ground zero. There's a storm swirling all around you, and Walla Baby knocking over all the homes in Kansas. Staying in the center of the eye, you know that there is a level of safety that there shouldn't be. Because if you move and the storm moves, there's very little chance that you all are moving in the same direction, which means you would leave the eye and be in the full tempest of it. You're relatively safe here in the office. Alone. present but safe.
This is a bit of a conundrum because I know what she would want to do, but at the same time, this is also a place where she might get triggered. Just too much going on around her. Which puts it in your hands, because she doesn't get to choose.
She does not. She takes a deep, steadying breath. Lori wastes precious seconds. And in trying to decide what to do, she incidentally leans forward, resting both of her palms face down on the desk. She sees the same image of the chessboard in the offing. The 4 kings and those off the board making moves. Some slowly, some taking for what seems like years to manifest. Others moving quickly and burning things out. And the rats, they're chewing at the foundations of the board, at the pillars of heaven. And she sees Lucio falling to them as they chew out of him, as they tear up out of the darkness in the center of his being. And she sees Hestia and Miriam surrounded. And she sees herself the last standing as a queen all in shadow. Ease is close enough to sink fangs into her neck and drain her dry. Speaking of draining someone dry, the victim beneath you, Lucio, is clearly younger than his strength would seem to suggest. And if they were able to get this close to you, they would literally be able to crawl right inside Hestia, or Miriam, or Lolly.
He immediately calls out to the spirit. And asks, which way did he go?
And he points to the now open door leading up and out of the space.
Come with me. I need you to be my eyes here. If you help me here, I swear to you, I will fulfill my end of the bargain.
Frowns for a second. Nods his head. Begins following you.
And Lucio will head inside. Or through the now open door that you said.
Moving up and out the open door, there's, as cold as it was in the hidey hole that led into the shelter, stepping out into the night air is very much like being slapped full force by an invisible bat. The wind picks up, the cold picks up, and you are floating through space, being frozen alive, turned into crystallized form of yourself.
So Lucio's outside now?
Yes.
Ooh. Which way, he says to the... What's the name of the spirit again? I'm sorry. Alright.
Don't worry, you point. It points. And then it points in the other direction. And then it jumps as if it just seen something absolutely 100% reprehensible as it points towards the garage. Like, I don't know how to say this, but there's others. Are you sure they can't see me?
I'm positive. But where's the one that was here? The one that would look like a priest?
He pauses. I can't be sure, but it looks like it went, and he points towards the main entrance of the shelter. Well, actually past it towards the garage. I can't be sure, but it looks as it may have gone that way.
Then that's the way Lucio will head. Is there a shortcut through the shelter that he can get there faster, or would it be faster going around the building?
No, going around the building is probably about your best bet, because you need to go back downstairs, through the shelter, up through the stairs, and then you remember that the interior entrance from the shelter into the from the shelter's haven into the shelter has been blocked off.
All right, so Lucio's going to move towards the front entrance then, and he's going to risk mending along the way.
Easier done than said. To foregone conclusion, you have more than enough time to do so. The only risk and the only worry is your beast. Your hunger ratchets up. You are sure that moving into the shelter, moving through the shelter will most assuredly be a matter of life and death.
He's gonna risk it because he looks like hell right now.
He, in fact, does. He tempts the beast, and it does not take its pound of flesh. It does not take a finger nor a hand. It allows him to escape with a measure of knitting and mending. And things are looking up. Things are looking in your general direction. There's a certain burst of hopefulness that takes over. And most people understand that pride goes before a fall. Most people understand that when things are at their brightest, then all it takes is the other shoe to fall, to drop, for things to change. There's a natural pessimism when things are moving right. There's a hopefulness behind it all. That's the worst part of it. Because hope, when it's dashed, hurts far worse than depression. And we get accustomed to aiming small, to aiming low, to getting by or to accepting just what we have. And as Lucio moves past the entrance of the shelter, your ghostly spectre, your patron saint of awareness, freezes in its steps and begins stuttering. Oh no, that's not it. That's not it. It's too small. It's too small. Watch out! As it points toward the garage, something coming off of that second story above your head. And as the sky falls around Lucio and hell comes to Harlem, Lolly understands that this is the beginning of a protracted battle. The successes of this particular group of kindred has drawn so many things out of the wood groups as to make it very dangerous. Lions and tigers and bears, oh my, especially lion for some strange reason. And as Hestia speeds through the dark, rushing to get near Miriam to let her know so that they can make a plan and we can find a way, Miriam is dealing with the real understanding that there's something else here besides her, something reaching through the detective, and it will not stop. It will not give in. It will not allow her the time to truly enjoy her recent successes. And the worst thing of all is that part of her is willing to accept that damnation, and she realizes that she has changed so very much from the beginning of things. She has lost some semblance of her innocence, as it were. She understands that part of her is rationalizing the taking of life. And that's not something she can truly square herself with. Not that any of us are square. Not that any of us are truly fair. But as the coterie each in their own way. Look for equilibrium. Look for a way to balance the scales and get their just desserts, or at least meet them out to their most recent enemies who are crawling out of the woodwork. I want to thank you all for a lovely session, and I'll see you guys next week. Good night, everybody.
Good night, everyone.
Good night, all.
I did it, guys.